Get ready for the dictation. Start. The G7 needs to be more open and less exclusive in an increasingly interlinked world. The G7 summit at Caribbean Bay sent out two very strong messages. The first was driven by the United States' new president Joseph Biden and his vow that America is back to take the lead on global challenges. The G7 commitment to donate 1 billion coronavirus vaccines to poorer countries and to invest $12 trillion in their combined pandemic recovery plan depends on US commitments for a large part. The special communique on open societies for the G7 outreach and the invitation to fellow democracies India, Australia, South Korea, and South Africa are also an extension of his stated commitment to convening a democracy summit this year. Even the slogan for the G7, Build Back Better, was a White House term to declare America's economy and jobs recovery plan. The second message was the consensus amongst the seven member countries on countering China. The final G7 communique holds no less than four direct references to China, each negative, including criticizing Beijing for its rights record in Xinjiang and democratic freedoms in Hong Kong, its non market policies and practices, concerns over its actions in the China Seas, and a demand for a transparent investigation into the origins of the COVID 19 virus. Though the bonhomie among the G7 leaders was palpable, the differences and contradictions in the grouping remain a challenge. Even 2 decades ago, questions were raised about whether the grouping earlier, the G8, could claim its mantle as the world's richest countries when emerging economies, China and India, are not included. On economic issues, the EU is a more representative unit than the individual European G7 member countries. Finally, the premise of a group like the G7, that of an exclusive club of the haves or the best versus the rest, seems anachronistic in a world that is much more interlinked now than in 1975 when the grouping first came about. India, a special guest to the G7 oblique G8 since 2003, has also maintained its independent course, especially on political issues. It is significant that the G7 outreach communiques that included the guest countries did not make the same references to China as the main document, and MEA officials clarified that Chinese aggression was not raised at the outreaches, which focused on the pandemic, climate change, and democratic freedoms. India voiced concerns which condemned rising authoritarianism, net shutdowns, manipulation of information, and rights violations, areas where the Modi government has often been criticized itself. Addressing the session on open societies, Mr. Modi said that India is a natural ally to the G7. In the present, the government will be expected to walk the talk on its commitments at the G7 outreach, especially in the areas of information clampdowns, given that India had the largest number of internet shutdowns in 2020. Stop.